Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is happening up in the stars above for this week. I hope you all had a great weekend. I worked my way through the weekend. It's the case right now for me that I'm working 7 days a week. Tried to get things caught up, but also getting prepared for different courses and classes and clients that have requested readings. So, but to me, my work is also fun. It just gets to be crazy, right? To have so much going on. And then I can tell it's certainly the shadow of a Mercury retrograde because things are wonky. I can't seem to get my Calendly to work to make people who purchase readings be able to schedule a reading at the same time. That's crazy because that worked fine until the new year. And yeah, I couldn't get into Blog Talk the other day. Somehow Facebook wouldn't connect to Blog Talk. And then over the weekend, Asa had to post for me in Living Astrology because I couldn't get into my own dang page. She could get into my page, but I couldn't get into my page. So it's that wonky time. If you're noticing those irritations in your life about communication or about thinking or communicating, yeah, it's thank you, Mercury, who is preparing for his retrograde status. And of course, that shifts at the end of this week. So that's just one of the things that we'll have to talk about as time goes on here. So it's Monday, and that means that we are going to take time to look at not only today's energy, but for the overview for the next several days. And there is some interesting things going on this week, some things that you might recognize from previous experiences, a continuation of a very powerful new moon that occurred back January 13th that we are facing completion with. Well, not complete completion, but the next level of with this particular full moon coming up this Thursday, I believe it is. Oh, it's on Thursday, the 28th. So Thursday. And so let's start with what's going on today. We right now have the moon in Gemini, but it's in the void. So if you're feeling like you're wandering around or you're not able to get much accomplished, or that things that you like for me this morning, trying to get here on time, that was interesting, right? That I suddenly couldn't quite get in the right way. And well, that is the moon in a void, of course, but also Mercury preparing to go retrograde. So we have some wobbly energies today. So it can be frustrating, especially if you're trying to push into getting something done. So just know that until we get to 10:52 a.m. West Coast time, 1:52 p.m. for those of you on the East Coast, the moon will be wobbling around at the end of Gemini and will move into Cancer after the void breaks at 10:52, 1:52. So as soon as the moon breaks the void, it'll move into the sign of Cancer, the sign of home and family and comfort. And so let's chat about what we have going on with the moon in Cancer. And actually, as I looked at this, oh dear, Asa, oh dear. So am I even out there, people? She's telling me she can't type in there. Yep, nobody's there. I'm out here all alone. Something's going on with the connection between Zoom now and YouTube. And hold on, I know I'm here, but I see no one. And now everybody's texting me. Well, I'm definitely on the right channel. So I got that part. And I don't know what to say. Maybe it's just the chat that's down. Let me type in something. Maybe that'll open it up for everybody. Good morning, everyone. It does say that there are people watching right now. So I don't know what to say. I know I'm on the right channel. That's usually the problem. But there now people are popping in. I see Christine and I see Elisa and Marjorie. So that's good. So let me tell her. Some people are popping in. Oh, I think she's saying she can't. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. We're back in the groove, girls and boys. Let's go back. Let's go back a bit to what we were chatting about, which is the fact the moon is wobbling around in Gemini, my favorite sign. But when the moon is wobbling around, things just don't seem to go in the way that we think they should go. And there we have J-Lo and Allison and Tammy and Mimi and everybody's saying hello to one another. So, okay, good. We're back in the swing of things. Asa, I don't see you there yet, but hopefully you're able to get in there and manage the chat for me. All right. So, Cancer moon, what can we expect for the next couple of days? Now, the Cancer moon is about home and family and emotions, right? There's a very nurturing quality to the moon in Cancer. The moon actually rules the sign of Cancer. So there's a deep affinity and affection that the two have for one another. But when we're experiencing the moon moving through Cancer, emotions are heightened and our feelings are easily hurt, or our feelings can be right there out on our sleeves for everybody to see. And that can be a problem if you're expressing in reaction to something. But it can be absolutely wonderful and beautiful if you are expressing through response and being response able toward whatever it is that has you triggered during the next couple of days. So let's see here. Asa, are you telling me you can see me now? Okay, perfect. So we just had a minor little glitchy thing going on there. So all is well. So besides home and family, the moon in Cancer rules our instincts, our gut instincts, but also our intuition. It seems to be heightened. It's the same thing that happens when the moon runs through the sign of Scorpio or Pisces, the water signs. They tend to strike up our intuition, and it's almost like our antenna are a little more polished and a little more open so that we can receive incoming messages or incoming information that is important to our being able to move through our lives. As well, Cancer is a sign of safety, and security and protection are utmost in their field. They want to feel like they belong to family or to a friendship or to a network, or somehow that they just belong here on this planet. And they're also concerned with financial security. And so when the moon moves through the sign of Cancer, it's often a good time to do a quick checkup on your finances. Make sure there's no leaks. Make sure there's nothing that is, something that you should have been paying attention to, a bill that didn't get paid, that kind of thing. Because Cancer is a sign that really enjoys the feeling of having all the finances taken care of. But they're also a sign that likes to make sure the cupboards are full, right? That when you need something, that you have it. So that whole idea of being secure, finding protection, and often that protection and security comes from finances, is important when the moon is moving through Cancer. This is a sign that also rules our growing and our nurturing, sort of how it is that we take care of ourselves and of one another. It's at least as important to take care of yourself during a moon in Cancer transit as it is for you to understand about how you can care for and empathize with other people. There's a need for emotional closeness as we move through the sign, and that's about intimacy and empathy and that caring, right? The feeling that we have a mother or that we have someone who cares for us. And then, of course, our feelings and emotions. We talked a little bit about that in the negative side of things. And I want to talk about that for a minute. I was thinking about this morning. When we're talking about any of the energies through any of the signs, we are always talking about a continuum, right? I talk about a continuum or a spectrum of energies that we can experience during that period of time or during that transit. Well, where do I get that from? Right? I was thinking maybe you guys wonder, like, how is it that I get those more negative or less positive expressions? Well, literally, it comes from the energy of the other sign. So when we're talking about Cancer, the other sign is Capricorn. My cat is over here playing. She's scratching on her scratch post, which I put next to me so that she could play while I was on air. But now It's like she's caught in something. Anyway, she's just a crazy kitty, and she's a wonder. Let me tell you, she's a wonder kitty. Okay, so we get the opposite energies, or the more negative energies, to the to the Cancer positive energies from Capricorn, which is the opposing sign to Cancer. So when we're looking at excessive self-protection, that's the major theme for the more negative expressions of Cancer energy. And one of those, clinginess, right? Clinginess, which is literally coming from the Capricorn other end, which tends to pull back and stays more neutral. Insecurity, when we're looking at insecurity, it's the more negative energy when Capricorn isn't in its own power. So we see an affinity with the more negative expressions from the other sign coming forward in the sign of Cancer. Possessiveness, fear of rejection, and lack of definite goals. So remember, Capricorn, the opposite of Cancer, is a sign that really needs goals and plans so that they are always on the right path to forward momentum. But that lack of definitive goals is what can be the negative expression of Cancer. And then in the body, the health, the sign Cancer rules everything to do with the chest, the breasts, the pancreas, the stomach, and is also involved in tumors that grow in any part of the body. So there we have what Cancer will be presenting us for the next 2 to 3 days. And that's really taking us up through up till Wednesday, I believe, when the moon will shift on Wednesday out of the sign of Cancer and into Leo in preparation for her full stage, which comes on Thursday. With the full moon across Leo and Aquarius. So the moon will be in Leo, the sun is in Aquarius, and that sets up for the full moon, which we're going to talk a little bit more about here in just a few minutes. First, let me make sure I am still connected here and that, yeah, we're looking good. Ursula, good morning. Yes, you're welcome for that. And Coach Michael, good morning to you. I think I've got everybody so far. If you have questions, go ahead and type those in here, and Asa will be sure to get them to me now that we're all firing on the same circuits. Yes, question from JLo. I knew there was going to be a question. Is it safe to say don't build any huge walls in life? Yeah. I'm not sure where that comes out of left field, JLo. What are you experiencing? Because indeed, walls just beg to be brought down, right? Just think about any wall that's ever really been built, except the Great Wall in China. They crumble, they fall on their own, but they are also something that's used as separation, as a boundary. Now, I'm not saying that boundaries are not a good thing, but walls tend to separate, right? And if we're in a world where we already have enough separation and division, do we really want to be putting up walls? And then the question is also, what is the wall about, right? Is the wall between you and love? Is it a wall between you and success? Is it a wall between you and creating what you want in your life? So address the purpose of the wall, and then you might see what the fear is that's brought the wall up, because Cancer is a sign, right, of protection. So it would make sense. That's actually probably a good question coming from you. And Cancer would be one of those signs from an over emphasis on self-protection that might erect walls that don't necessarily need to be there anymore. So taking a look at that in your own life, what was it? Or in other people, right? You can sometimes see that people build a wall against you, right? And what is that about? And of course, it is never the other person's issue. It is your own issue. And so why might someone need protection from you? Or what might they be protecting themselves from? And they would have to address their own fear that's in that. But also, why are you seeing that energy out there? How is it serving you to notice that in your personal life? As a negative expression, yes. Well, Yeah, negative expression of something you're protecting yourself from. It would be what I think you're saying, J-Lo. So yeah, walls. I don't want to say they're good or they're bad. I mean, it's not that we don't want to build walls. It's just that we got to know what it is we're building the wall for, right? What is it we're building the wall for? What is the bang for our buck? That what are we getting out of the wall? And if you go down to the very base meaning of that wall for yourself or for the world in general, or whatever that wall is about, is there a fear that has instigated the building of the wall? Because if there is, then definitely that wall is not on solid footing, right? It's not there. So you would have to address the fear as the reason for the wall. So much we could talk about walls, right? Let's take a look now. If you have more to ask about that, J-Lo, go ahead and let Asa know that. I feel like I'm flying a little blind here as to what you're referring to with the walls, but if there's something specific that you want me to talk about, then let me know that too. Let's take a quick look at the week ahead astrologically. It's not that it's not as crazy of a week as we've seen, right? The previous weeks here in the month of January, or as we ended 2020. But there is some definite drum banging that is going on, a drum beat, let's say. And that drum beat is about our willingness or readiness for change, right? To move forward. And I mean, we see this, like, we're at the tipping point, let's say, of a major shift in our awareness and in our consciousness, and even in our evolution. And it's creating the feeling, if you will, of conflict or confrontation. So the week ahead, the transits for the week ahead sort of kind of build on that need to change, but bumping into our resistance to do that. Okay. Now, this isn't the same thing for everybody. I think we see it better in the outer world, but of course, we participate in that outer world. So, the opportunity then for this particular week is for us to look personally within to see where it is that we are resisting change. Where is it that we're resisting about moving into fully embracing a new paradigm, right? Or a new sense of community, or a new sense of freedom, or a new sense of coming together, right? These are themes of Aquarius, which has like all of the energy right now, right? There's so much going on in Aquarius and more to come, and squares from Taurus to Aquarius, and that the full moon is just, a big square. We're going to talk more about it in a minute. So for all of us, we're having to address these places within us where we aren't hip to the change, right? That we're like holding ourselves back, where we're saying, whoa, 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 wait, don't, I don't want to go. But the need is for us to change, right? And to move forward with a new world. But in that forward movement, it's not about letting go of everything from the past. We have to choose what's important to us based on values, our values, collective, but also individual, that we want to bring with us into that future or into that new world. So that is a problem right now, because it's like when you go on a trip, right? You can take one backpack with you. So you have to choose what you can take with you. What's the most important things, right? And what will fit in the bag. And that's kind of where we are right now, is that we can only take so much with us through that eye of the needle. And that means we can only take with us the most important things, right? The most important things that are going to support us in this new, right? So as we look at the week ahead, think about that. in some of these bigger transits that are happening. So for example, today we have the sun in a sextile to Chiron. And again, that word that connects the two planets is always a word that represents a relationship. So a sextile relationship is a 60-degree coming together of planets. And in the 60 degrees, it implies that these planets have the same sort of abilities to work with one another. So there's a give and a take in a sextile, a sharing equally of the talents of each of the planets without the need to control the other. So we have the sun, whose brightness who represents our ego selves and our personality and our skills, our abilities. And Chiron represents the wound that we're carrying and our ability to heal the wound. So you might look at that as great opportunities today for us to look inward to where those wounds are and to heal them, to clean them up and get them prepared to go through a complete and full healing. On Tuesday, tomorrow, the sun will come into a square with Uranus. The square relationship is a challenging one. So we have the sun's light and his strength and his wisdom that meets up with the great change agent, the great liberator in Uranus. So here is one of those things where we're going to come right up against that need for change, and where it is that we're in resistance to moving ahead, either personally or collectively. So, I mean, sometimes I think we don't necessarily notice where we personally might be in resistance, but we can see that resistance when we start looking at the outer world, because it's an outer picturing of what's moving through us within. So taking a look outside or taking a look inside, take a look at where you're in resistance and then free yourself, right? Now, this is a pretty strenuous, if you will, sort of coming together of planets. And so it would be in our best interests to have tools available, antidotes to that crazy energy. And one way is, of course, through physical activity, exercise, through meditation, quiet, more introspective pursuits, yoga, contemplation, etc. And if physical exercise, go out into the garden or exercise itself, right? Just for walking and doing those kinds of things that move your body to move through some of this change. Otherwise, this becomes the potential for upset and for conflict or confrontation. On Wednesday, we start the new Human Design Week. We move into a space of sensitivity and storytelling. So it's interesting because that combination helps us to see into the invisible lines of connection. So if you're willing, you will be able to tap into the invisible lines of the planet, because the gate 19 is a sensitive place. It's called the gate of attunement, where we can attune ourselves energetically with what comes next, right? What is opening up for us, and being sensitive to the needs and the wants of the people around us as well, and sensing the direction that the wind is blowing before the wind is actually blowing in that direction. And then with the Earth at the gate 33, the gate 33 is a gate of telling of a story of humanity. But we tend to, what are the stories that we tend to send, right? We tend to really focus more on the stories that are of difficulties in our lives. And the more that you tell the story in that narrative of this happened and blah, 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 I was abandoned, I was rejected, I was betrayed. And the more we keep telling those stories, the more we keep that energy alive within us. And then every time we tell that story, we're strengthening that experience. Instead, we get an opportunity with the new energies of human design this week to tell a new story, to create a different one, right? To create a different narrative about who we are, where we're going, what we've been, and how do we pull up ourselves from, deep within us and move forward with unity, even if it scares the what out of us, right? So there's that. On Thursday, we have the full moon It is also in the Pleiadian-Earth energy, the day of 13 Enlightening. It is the final day in the spiral of consciousness that began with 1 loving. So the lessons that we had been learning about for the previous 13 days have all been about finding the conflict and applying love, finding what's deep within us that hurts and applying love, finding what is hurting in our families or in our communities or in our nations and applying love to it. Even if it's only us applying love to a situation and allowing that to be what takes us finally into enlightening energy, which is where we come to with the full moon. Interesting and extraordinary that the full moon, which signals a completion, is also on a 13 enlightening day that also signals the time for ascension, moving on to the next level. The full moon brings us also a Venus conjunct Pluto, the sun conjunct Jupiter, the moon opposing Saturn and Jupiter, plus squaring Uranus and Mars. And when we get into the actual full moon chat here today, you'll see more about how that's playing out. And on Friday, the moon transits into the sign of Leo, changing up the energy dynamic and also preparing us into, or the moon is in Leo that day, having let go of all the squares and the things from the full moon the day before, and moves us into more self-expressive territory, as it's also sitting on the 1 day for the Pleiadian calendar, which is 1 being. And 1 is the energy of newness, of initiation, of starting something new. Being is the first day of the earth signs, which also represents nurturing something new, beginning something. So interesting then that right following that full moon at 13 enlightening is a 1 being that starts the entire cycle of evolution over again at the next level. So an interesting week when we look at it that way. And then on Saturday, Mercury turns retrograde at 26 degrees of Aquarius. If you know where that is in your chart, you'll know where that's happening. And of course, that's happening with all of the planets, the stellium of planets that are now in the sign of Aquarius, which happen to be Saturn, the Sun, Jupiter, Pallas Athena, Mercury. And on February 1st, which is just a week away, we'll add Venus to the mix. So Aquarius playing host to a stellium of planets, at least through the 18th of February. So that gives you a kind of insight into where all the action is happening for the next several weeks. Look to Aquarius in your own chart, and that will tell you the area of your life that is the hotbed, right? The hot seat for everything that's happening. It's also interesting to note that we have a pattern that, let me see if I can show it to you. You can see this pattern here. If I step back a bit, that almost all the planets are on the eastern quadrant of the chart. The eastern quadrant sees new beginnings in both personal and collective ideas and ideals. And I always find that one interesting. So, okay, that is not where I wanted to go. Asa. Corey and myself have our natal moon in Leo. What would this full moon mean for us? Well, it really depends on what your personal moon is connected to and how close is this full moon to your natal moon. So the moon will be at the 9th degree of across Leo and Aquarius. If you have a moon in Leo, though, you're likely being brought to a place where it's time to let go of anything that isn't aligning you with your heart, that your desires, right? The moon in Leos, they really want to, now don't take this wrong, they really want to be seen, right? They really want to stand out in the crowd. They really want to be the one that is talked about and thought about, and to stand out. There's just this need for them to be seen. But often there's a lack of confidence there with the moon. The confidence comes over time. So perhaps the full moon for you and Corey Asa signals a time for you to release whatever it is that has stopped you from moving fully and heartfully into your personal self-expression and the desires that you have. So it's always an opportunity, right? Let go, be more heart-centered, do what's good for you. I think so many times the message in the world is to do what's right for others, that somehow doing what's right for you is sometimes met with you're being selfish or self-centered or narcissistic or, lots of things like that. But when you're doing what's right for you, it allows the people around you to see that you're living your truth so they can live their own truth as well. For me, it is that, oh, wow, Asa, this is a big one for you then, because it's at that degree of your natal moon. So a big time for releasing, a big time for revelation as well, because the full moon doesn't just mean an ending. It can mean the removing of obstacles. It can be the beginning of something, clearing the way for something new that maybe you intended on the new moon back on the 13th of this month. So take a look. What were your intentions that you set with the new moon? Because now might be the time when you see the obstacle, you release the obstacle, but it can also signal that revelation or aha moment that comes with the recognition of this is what I want. This is the direction I want to go in, and this is how it's going to be, right? Being very self-directed. Okay. I hope that answers your question. And we're going to talk more about the aspects to that full moon here in just a minute, because it is a highly activated full moon. So as the moons have been for the last couple of months, they have been really driving us into new territory. So we'll talk about that here in just a minute. I want to get through the Pleiadian energy for the day. Corey is at 12 degrees. So Corey, close enough that this is affecting you as well. So what I would say is look to the house that Leo is in your chart as well, because that house, as well as the opposing house in Aquarius, form an axis where the axis might be bringing you clues as to what needs to happen in your life and what is underway for being changed at the moment, or where the ahas might be. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's look at today's Pleiadian astrology. We have time here I got to consider. Today's energy is 10 evolving. 10 evolving. So the 10 energy is about, so the number, the 10 in this case, is all about the universal energies of the day. So that affects every life form, all of us here on the planet. But if we were on another planet, it would also affect us there. It's universal. And it is the number of physical manifestation. And it is about the intentions that we've set. And when those intentions are built with the highest good for all, that they are positive in the expectation, that then the manifestation results are positive. And then vice versa, right? If you're focused on what scares you about that intention, or about the things you're not seeing that you really wanted to see, then that is also what is manifesting. So it's a call for us to really keep clear that what it is our minds are focused on, and what our emotions are focused on, and what we are aligned with is what is manifesting. So if you don't like what you see in your life, or you don't like what you see is manifesting, then you're focusing in the wrong place, or you've got to go back to the setting of the intention and what was that energy that you activated it with. So I always say that the power of manifesting is in the alignment of the mind, the emotions, the heart, and then allowing, right? The allowing part that says, I'm not going to put up blocks, or I'm not going to demand that it only show up in this one way. Because when I do that, then I'm making it so that the universe, who can do things in any number of ways, is pigeonholed, if you will, right? They can't, it's not possible. And then when we see that it's not possible, then we start to become more negative in our thinking. That creates more negative emotions. And then the manifesting ends up being exactly what we didn't want instead of what we do want. So we have to be very aware on a day like today about where are our thoughts and our emotions focused. And are they focused in the direction of what you want? Or are they focused on your fear that you won't get what you want, right? That's the important thing. The energy of evolving is the earth energy of the day. And the nature of evolving in the Mayan calendar, it was Kaban, which was about earthquakes. This is a day of shaking the earth and shaking us out of our reveries, shaking us up in some way, shifting our boundaries, shifting our plans, shifting opportunities, the shifting sands beneath our feet. It causes us to go with the flow of change, right? So we're flowing with the stream of changes and trusting in the infinite wisdom of the universe or of source or of God, whatever you call it, it doesn't matter. But the idea here with Kaban or with evolving energy is to go with the flow. And in that, we experience abundance on multiple levels, right? It doesn't have to be just money. It could be in our career, it could be in our work, it could be in our love, it could be in money, it could be in everything, right? All the resources. So stay with the flow, go with the flow, do not resist change. I think I said that back earlier in the broadcast. This is a week that's really testing our ability to remain durable, even in durable, sustainable, conservative, maybe even in the face of changes, right? Conserving our energy for and watching how the strands of energy are moving us. That would be a lot to do with the gate 19 of sensitivity as we move more into Thursday's energy as well. Wednesday's energy is where that begins. All right, let me see. I heard a buzz. Does that, question for Tom. From Tom, sorry. Why does he have Venus D on his calendar? Is it out of his shadow from the 1st of January? You have Venus direct, probably, if Tom, you're thinking about this from maybe your Astrology of 2021 reading, and that would be Venus in retrograde this coming December. And from December 19th until January 29th of 2022, when Venus turns direct. And if I remember correctly, it turns direct in a sensitive place in your chart. Let me see if I still have your chart here somewhere. I seem to have everybody's except the one I was looking for the other day, which was too funny. Tom, I don't have yours, Tom. So I don't know exactly where that is in your chart, but wherever you have the sign of Capricorn, that is where Venus will turn retrograde and direct as we end 2021 and start into 2022. So always a good reminder, though, to stick with our values and what is important to us. And maybe that's what you're thinking of. But other than that, I don't know. So let's look at the full moon then. I'm going to share my screen and bring up a graphic that is the full moon's chart. So everybody right now should be seeing the chart of the full moon in Leo and Aquarius. So the full moon is at 9 degrees of Leo with the sun at 9 Aquarius and the moon at the 9 Leo space. So it creates an axis, right? So if we look at it here in this little chart, you see the sun is here and it's opposite of the moon right here. So we have that opposition going on. And that's the very definition of a full moon. That occurs at, 11:16 a.m. for those of us on the West Coast, and 2:16 p.m. for those of you on the East Coast, 7:16 p.m. in Universal Time for Europe and beyond. And then hopefully people can figure out for themselves where it is if you're in Australia, for example, or Asia somewhere. I always get these little musical clues that come to my mind as I'm writing up the energies for the month or for anything for that matter. And the one that came up that time for me was, I can see clearly now the rain is gone. And it is the ability that we have as things, as energies are sort of simmering down, right? As that ragdoll energy that we felt all of 2020 starts to come into a quieter place that we can, and it's not to say that we're done with the change energies. That's not it at all. It just says that maybe we're gaining some perspective now, right? That the watershed moments of the past 12 to 14 months are sort of behind us. And what we're left with is the potential of what do we do now, right? Where do we go now, and what more is possible? Well, then the moon for us actually echoes that exact sentiment here, where it's an awakening energy and we're signaling that there is a new beginning that's possible, right? That all things are possible. And one of the themes, of course, of all of 2021 is about possibility and possibilities, right? Possibility thinking. Now, as we're looking at being awakened by the moon, the sun is also holding space in Aquarius over here on this side, where that axis is about the dreams that we have, the vision that we have. The sun in Aquarius is very much the innovator. That's a good word. The innovator, the awakener of what lies within us that needs to be expressed in the outer world. So it is in a sign that is freedom loving, right? But that freedom loving lies in our choices. It's not freedom in the way that anarchy or the insurrection sort of energies. It can go that direction. It's not really meant to go in that direction, though. It's meant to go in the choices that we make that move us forward, right? As individuals, as communities, as societies, as we're moving ourselves in new directions. That when with the moon on the opposite side, we're awakening to see where that new beginning is possible. So for Corey and Asa, since you guys brought up the fact that your moons sit very close to this moon, looking at it that way in your own life, what awakening energies are there? What new beginnings are being signaled to you? Subtly maybe, but maybe not so subtly in your lives. And wherever the house is shows you where that new beginning is possible. Now, you can see I stripped this chart way down, right? I stripped it down to just the most important connections, because otherwise it can get really crazy looking. And you see this T-square, right? The T-square. And the T-square is formed from an opposition of two planets that both square a planet or other planets at a point that's 90 degrees away. And so what we have here is the sun opposing the moon, and the moon is in a square then to Uranus, the sun, or to Mars, and to the black moon Lilith, and the sun and Jupiter in a conjunction here are also squaring Uranus, Mars, and the black moon Lilith. So we have some very powerful energies in this moon, and squares, as you know, are already challenging and present us with objects in our path or experiences that cause us to have to rise up to a challenge. And we have lots of those kinds of things going on here. So the sun squares Uranus, Mars, black moon Lilith from Aquarius to Taurus. And these are, by the way, all three of these signs, Aquarius, Leo, and Taurus, are all three fixed signs. So we may be coming face to face where we are stuck, where we have a pattern that keeps repeating itself ad nauseum, and that we need to break out of that pattern, right? So the planetary energy is showing us the places that we are stuck in, and the energy of the T-square is set to promote the breaking up of that challenge or of those obstacles or the pathway presented to go around or under or over that challenge. So squares are our friend, because without them, we tend to just stay in our lackadaisical selves, right? Just kind of holding space, sticking with our same stories and telling those stories over and over again. But this energy is not going to allow for that to happen. Right. And we even have the moon in this case squaring Uranus, Mars, and black moon Lilith from Leo's fixed sign nature to Taurus's fixed sign nature. So it looks to me as if we're building a new way to self-express, and we're building a new way to be in society with one another. So there are cultural shakeups and changes that are happening, societal and community change-ups, as well as individual things that are in the offing for us to change up at this moment in time. So when we look at the full moon square Mars, it gives us sort of this deeply connected need to change up our lives, right? To follow our passions and our desires. So anytime the moon is squaring Mars, you're going to get that ability, that fighting spirit, that dynamic need to take action on something. And it can make people short-tempered or irritable or, ready to spoiling for the fight, right? It's interesting because I've seen it going around in on social medias and so forth. And there's people that just throw out comments that are designed by nature, either consciously or subconsciously, to provoke something, to provoke a response in people. And that subconscious urge is to really solve the conundrum or the pattern that you are in your own life. But we tend to throw it out there onto other people in some way. So we need to take care during this period of time, because it's easy for us at this point to hurt other people or to say or do things that that are related to the needs that we have to change, where we're not doing that. So it's bringing all of that up. Holding on to anger is never wise, right? Because that just means it's boiling and simmering and waiting for that moment to blurt out. So we have to avoid being overly defensive and reactionary energy, right? We want to be in response. So before saying or doing anything that you may regret later, breathe, right? Would you rather be at peace, or would you rather be right? It's a question that we have to struggle with during this period of time. And of course, there's no small amount of courage here, right? Mars represents courage. Leo represents courage and strength. So the sun always is the thought of courage and leadership energy, and how do we want to show up in the world? So we have that available. We also have the full moon opposing the sun and Jupiter, who are in a conjunction. And this adds an air of ease to the whole proceeding, right? This makes it more sociable, more optimistic, more fun-loving. The square to Mars here, though, means that it's not all fun and games, right? There's some seriousness to it. So we want to balance, if we can, right, our need to have fun and to be optimistic, but with a dose of that reality. I think it was on Friday, we were talking about the coming together of imagination and reality, and how do we make real what lies in the imagination? So we see that here. So we want to be willing to share of ourselves with this kind of aspect. Mars squaring Jupiter gives us the enthusiasm, the courage to take action, but sometimes we go overboard when we have any planet that is in a connection to Jupiter. So avoid being overly confident or pompous or arrogant in your behaviors, right? We want to strike a balance between being confident and knowing our mind and knowing that we're pushing into our desires, and recognizing the effect that is going to have on other people around us. So I guess overall, you could say this is a time, this moon, to choose your battles wisely, right? To not just get into the fight for the sake of the fight. And then with moon and earth at the gate 33, there is this retelling ability, right? We can retell the story. Yeah, 2020 was hell, but what came out of that? What are the good things that came out of that? What are the things, the weaknesses that were exposed through the things that happened in 2020? those are in the retelling of those stories of 2020, we have this opportunity to sort of spin it in a way that helps us to see in perspective all of the experiences that and the rightness of everything that was happening. And we don't need to know the why it happened, but we can sort of see that it was perfect in its rightness. It's hard to express because it seems like everything was so dreadful going through 2020, but there is some nugget there. We just have to allow it in the retelling of it so that we don't just keep up with the negative story, the negative of the conversation. The sun at the gate 19 is sensitivity in attunement to the strands of consciousness and what direction those strands are moving. So those are important things for us to keep track of as well. A couple of other transits that are also occurring with this full moon are important to note. One is Venus will be in a conjunction to Pluto that day. If you look right here, they are both at 25 degrees of Capricorn. Now, Venus always tempers whatever planet she comes into contact with, or expands the beneficial connection, the beneficial nature of the planet. So Pluto is a major transformer that also shows us where we might be in power struggles with others, where there is this sort of dragging us through the darkness kind of energy. Venus comes along and increases the benevolent side of this energy, which means we may feel like we really are looking for love and intimacy and connection. We have the desire to experience that companionship, that love that comes through being in a deeper relationship with someone. So Venus here gives us not only that search for intimacy, but also creates a sort of magnetic attraction between us and others. So we are magnetically able to attract to us the people that will support us in the search for intimacy. But this power can also be misused and through manipulation or power struggling with others or guilt tripping people or other, subversive Plutoan tactics that come up in connection with the planet. So looking at the positive side here is, how are we meant to be together with one another? And where is it that maybe I have been manipulating a situation with a person? Or, what type of, this reminds me of, in particular, women who are attracted to the bad boys, right? The bad boy kind of thing, that image of danger, right? There's that edge. So Venus here is, adding that edge to things with Pluto. So any relationships that start during a Venus conjunct Pluto will take on sort of that issue around power and struggle. But during a full moon like this, it means that maybe we're having to confront those kinds of issues within our own relationships and see where it is we might be trying to manipulate or control others in the relationships that we're in, or where we are being manipulated or controlled by others. And we also have Saturn squaring Uranus, right? We haven't gotten rid of that yet. So Saturn here at 4 degrees or so of Aquarius, squaring Uranus, who's at 6 degrees or so. So they're about almost 2 degrees apart, but still a very activated long-term influence that doesn't even come to a head until I want to say February 17th or 18th. And so we're still building this connection between these two planets, and it is change. And often it is because Saturn represents sort of the foundation that we have, it can be the upsetting of the foundation, right? The place where we haven't really wanted to change, but it's change that's upon us. And we have to either go with that flow or risk having a collapse in everything that we've worked for. So it makes it harder for us to bring in the change that we want, because what we're seeing is change that's moving us in a different direction. And because these are fixed signs, they tend to want to stay on, I want to go that way, but the universe seems to be telling you that you need to move in a different direction. And if we stay open and just wait and see what that brings us, then we find success and we find a karmic reward and recognition. Where if you are holding back and insisting that it can only happen by going in this other direction, then you risk tension and sudden collapses in your relationships or in your life. And the high side here is that you take those challenges that you're being presented with and you be flexible and you be aware of how change is affecting here, and you move in the direction of flow. You're not going to force change by pushing in the opposite direction. That is an old paradigm, an old model of behavior that we are in the middle of adopting a new way of being, which is to go with the flow, right? Being patient is rewarding here, right? Having the patience to step back and wait until you have clear definition from the universe as to what direction to go. When you have that, then this full moon helps you to see what is possible for your personal life and for even the paradigm, the bigger paradigm. All right. So questions about that, Tom, to answer your question on the webinar, we would have been talking about the same thing. Venus turning direct in moving from retrograde December 19th through January 29th of 2022. Because it begins in 2021, it's an energy that affects us this year, but not until December. So that's answering that question for you. Question from J-Lo. She has Salacia in Aquarius and nothing in Leo. Is that a free pass? It's hard to say that. It's hard to say that. It's not a free pass. It's not a free pass ever for any of us. Because there's a planet that rules those signs, right? The sun rules Aquarius and you have the sun in Taurus. You do personally, J-Lo. So if you have the sun in Taurus, then there's a connection here. So wherever the sun is in your chart, it is squared by the energies in Aquarius. And it is also squared by the moon in this case, that's going to be in Leo. The moon is in Leo. So you're being squared by the moon to your sun in some relationship, and also by the sun itself in transit coming into a square with your natal sun. So struggle is there, right? The struggle is real in some cases. The conflict potential is there. The releasing yourself from some kind of challenge or rising up to meet the challenge is there in your life, simply because every sign has a ruling planet and that planet is somewhere in your chart. So even an empty house has energy about it. Does that make sense? If it does, let me know. If you need more clarity there, let me know that too. And you could do that via email, or you can send it to me in a text, that kind of thing. Okay, Saturn in Cancer, hopefully it helps with the flow of it all. Perhaps it will. Right? You can tell in your own lives, what are the things that you're struggling with right now? Right? Is it a job? Is it a relationship? Is it your finances? Is it your health? Is it your spiritual beliefs? Wherever it is that you're struggling is where the potential is for some kind of enlightenment during this full moon period of time. Because don't forget, the Pleiadian-Earth energy of that day is 13, the readiness for ascension to the next level through enlightenment, right? Seeing the light. So we're all affected by these things, just some of us more intensely than others, but you can look at your life right now and see where it is that you're struggling. That's going to give you a clue as to what is happening here for you personally. Okay, that was a lot. We had a lot to talk about today. All right, Wednesday, I will be on the Angel Heart Radio show with Annette McCoy at 3 p.m. Pacific time. 6 p.m. East Coast time. And you can tune in to that by going to the Angel Heart Radio Facebook page. We broadcast live to that page. And we're going to be talking a bit about the human design new year and what some of those energies are. So I know you're all seeing me put out that information right now. And there's a course that's available free for everybody. And for those of you who are already in the membership, that you might see is now popped up as a bundled course for your being a member. For those of you who are not in the membership, you can go to Living Astrology on any one of my pages. You can see the link there on how to get that course. And it is going to be dripping information to you over the next several days, just because of my own schedule right now. And it's free, right? It's free. All you have to do is join the school, the academy, and that's free. And then you'll have access to any of the free courses. And one of my intentions for 2021 is to make more material accessible to people without having to pay for anything in particular. So there's that option. And if you want more, of course, you can always join the membership or buy the courses that you see that are also there on the page. What else this week? I will see you on Friday, and we'll take a look at what the weekend holds. We'll take a deeper look at Mercury's retrograde this time as it starts on Saturday. In the meantime, everybody, take care. Have a wonderful week. And I look forward to talking to you later. Bye for now.